Hi, this is Jamie Pate for HeidiSwap.com, and in today's class, we are going to be making what I call a tag mini album. Now, the special thing about this particular album is that we are going to be utilizing two products from Heidi Swap Honey and Spice line. You can see here I have the 12 by 12 pattern paper, and then I have an assortment of the washi tape that belongs to this collection as well. And first, to start this tag mini album, we're going to be setting up what is going to be part of the tag booklet, and that will be a minked page. It's going to be an acetate clear page, and we're going to mink it at the very first. Another thing that's great about a tag mini album is that you can use a lot of your cutoffs. For example, we'll be using this striped paper, and you can tell I don't have a whole sheet, but I don't need a whole sheet. We just need a portion of it. Same with this beautiful geometric pattern. One of the most important pages that I thought would go along with this is, if I can find it, is what I call a cutaway page. So this page here is a beautiful cutaway page. It is already pre-shaped. You just need to trim away the tags, and we'll be making use of this quite a bit in this class too. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so what I have here is reactive screen ink from the Mink collection. I have a stencil that's part of a Mink kit that you can find. You can find all these things in the Heidi Swap shop. Just go to her blog, click on shop, and you'll be able to locate these items for purchase. And then it's kind of hard to see, but there's a piece of acetate here. I've cut this to 4 by 6, and it's a little bit big for where I know it's going to fit in the book, but we'll size it down when we get to that point. I'm only going to add through the stencil here, just the lower half of this tag. And like I said, we're going to be trimming this out anyway. And so it will be just fine to not have the whole entire tag, if you will, completely textured. And so I'm trying to actually, it's probably better. This is a pretty thin medium. It's probably better to actually put it on the scraper instead of picking it up. Now, once this dries, this is going to leave a nice texture behind. Once it's dry, I will add it to a carrier sheet and then run it through the Mink machine. I'm going to pull it off super careful. And so, like I said, I have left behind. I'm going to have to clean up my edges here. I got some on the edge, which I'm usually a little better than that. So I believe what's going to happen once this dries and it foils, I'll go back and I'll trim that off so we won't be having that on the edge, and that'll be just fine. So while this dries, we are going to move on to start creating the tag mini album. Okay, we're going to start on the base, just like I had explained before. I take a moment here and grab out the pattern paper that I'm going to use for my base. Now, the tag mini album will not be any larger than 4 by 6. So of course I'm going to cut my base paper to 4 by 6. So then I'm going to grab a piece of cardstock that's a little heavier. I'm going to add adhesive to the pattern paper and then apply that to this backer card, and that's just going to give it a lot better support. It's going to be a better way to hold all the rest of the album because of the little bit of support that gives. So we have the 4 by 6 base. It's all set. I'll set that aside for right now. The next piece I know I'm going to layer on top is going to be one of these tags. And I thought I was going to use this one. I went ahead and trimmed it out, but I've decided to use a note to brighten your day instead. It has a little more width to it. It's not necessarily longer, but it's going to be better against that base, especially as things get smaller as we come to the front and the beginning of this tag mini album. Remember how I said this would be a great way to use your scraps? That's what the next layer is going to be. I've already used a portion of this on another project, and so now I want to cut another piece of it for the tag album. The width of this tag is going to be 4 1/4. What's probably going to happen with that, I'm going to end up needing to trim that down a little bit, but I'm going to stick with the 4 1/4 for right now until I get the placement of how I want that stripe to show through. And then the height is 5 3/4. So I am just going to measure that to 5 3/4. See, yeah, I've made this a little long and I'm questioning my measurements, but that's okay. It's paper and we can go back and trim. But that's how, so far, what we have. And so I've decided for the next layer, we are going to use this love cut. And since it is a tag, and I'm going to probably want the edges, I don't know. I'm going back and forth. If I want them to be distressed a little bit, I'm just going to go ahead and cut it, or tear it rather, with my ruler. All right, and so that will be the next layer. Just because I want to eyeball this better, I'm going to go retrim that. I don't think I had the measurements right the first time, and that's okay. I'm going to bring that in just a little bit more, actually. So I ended up taking about 1/2 inch off of there. Yeah, I'm going to like that better, and that's going to layer on there. The next layer is going to use this camera print, which is so beautiful. It's kind of this watercolor, sort of an ethereal print going on here. Now for this notch tag, it's going to be 3 1/4 wide by 5 1/2 inches tall. And since I know this is going to be a notched tag, I'm going to go ahead and do that part of it. So you just want to cut up right straight in the middle of the tag of the piece of paper, and then go from corner to that middle line, and the other corner to that middle line. And sometimes you have to go in and make just little cut corrections here and there, but for the most part, this is a pretty foolproof way of creating a notched tag. Which takes us back to this cutaway page. Are you seeing a pattern here yet? So far what we have going on, we have our base, and it's backed with cardstock, and it's going to be pretty much, nothing else is going to be larger than this. For some reason, my measurements are a little weird. That's okay. We'll trim it up. So pattern paper, cutaway, pattern paper, cutaway, pattern paper, and now we're going to go back to another cutaway. Now I want to use best thing. That's right here in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off the top of this so I can get access to that. Okay, so now I have great access to You Are the Best Thing That Happened to Me tag, and I'm just going to tear and tear, and then that is part of that. Now, you can see why I might be hesitating, because this is going to look awesome right there. That's going to have great length, and that's going to have great length. I think that's how this is going to go. Don't tell anybody I changed it up, but I'm changing it up. All right, here's the next pattern paper we're going to use for our tag mini album. Again, I'm making a decision here on what part of this paper I'm going to use. So what I think is going to happen is I'm going to cut off an edge here, and I'm going to cut off, let's see, I believe it's going to be 4 inches. So I'm going to make a 4-inch cutoff right here. I'm trying to stay with the pinks and the mauves and maybe a little hint of mustard. And you're going to see when I introduce the photos into this, how beautifully that all plays out. And then this is going to be 5 1/4 inches tall. I'm going to go ahead, and I decided I don't like how wide it is. So I'm going to just trim off a little bit. And you know, if you don't care that absolutely everything is showing through from the back of the tag, then just leave all the measurements that I'm going to be sharing in the post on this as they are. But I tend to keep changing things up. It's just kind of the way I go about these things. So the next thing we're going to do is another cutaway. And this cutaway happens to already be trimmed out because we used the tag parts around it in another place. So it has a little bit of a green edge. I want to clean that up a little bit. And then I have this great square piece, and that's such a fabulous, one of my favorite cards right there is that watercolor old school camera, and reminding us all to smile. Okay, what is next? All right, I'm snagging another one of my offcuts from another project. This will then be 4, and I keep going to the 4 inches, and I'm going to go inside the 4 inches. It's going to be 4 inches, but it's going to be 4 3/4 tall. Set that in place. All right, at this point, I believe is where our acetate piece is going to come into play. And so I'm going to see if that's dry enough for us to go ahead and mink and trim up a little bit and add this to our tag mini album. Okay, let's give this a try. This feels pretty dry for me. I'm going to layer champagne foil on top and just stash it right inside this carrier folder and run it through the machine. Okay, let's reveal and see what happened here. All right. That one kind of pulled up a little interesting, like I've not had that happen before, but I think for the most part, I'm just going to trim off the edges a little bit, and I think it's going to make for a nice addition to this tag. Okay, so the next piece I'm going to use, I kind of jumped ahead a little bit. This is about 4 wide and about 4.5 inches long. And I just hand cut a heart and traced it on some cardstock like this, and then traced it on the back of this, trimmed it out with my craft knife. And what's so great about this, you can see I'm probably going to want to pull this up just a little bit, but I get that whole champagne vibe looking through that pattern paper. So then for the last tag, I'm looking for my cutaways. I'm just going to show you what I have going on over here on the side. I have a whole bunch of these trim outs already that, you know, I'm already thinking about is going to be used for another book. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be using this somewhere also. Actually, I think that's what I'm looking for. That's what I want. I want this number 2 tag. Okay, the thing about the number 2 tag is it has this really pretty scallop piece right here, but I'm going to use that someplace else. So for my cover, I'm calling it my cover, I'm going to be trimming that out, not including the scallop piece, but I'm going to have a really pretty tag that opens up this whole mini album. So the thing about this tag is I have this cut off from that. That's going to happen right there. That's going to be part of this. I'm probably going to center it a little bit. And so for the most part, we have the makings of a tag mini album. So from top to bottom, so this is going to actually be attached to this tag. Okay. And then we have this cutaway on here so you can see through, and this great see-through element. And we DIY'd our acetate. You can use vellum, but there's several different products you can use out there to create this clear piece. And then these tags look pretty plain as we're going through, but we're not done with them yet. We have a cutaway, we have pattern paper, another cutaway, pattern paper that we've already notched, another cutaway, pattern paper, a cutaway, and our base. Okay, let's move on to the next part of this class. Okay, so there's a couple different ways to distress these pages. One is to just give a really good sanding to the edge. And so some of these pages are going to have that going on. I'm going to sand the edges and give it some distress. What I'm going to do with this one here is you can do one of two things. You've seen this technique before. You can take a ruler, take the edge of a ruler, especially a smaller one that's going to fit in your hand really nice. Now this doesn't need it too much because remember we used the ruler before and tore this out. So I don't know if you can see or not, it's already got a pretty nice edge going on with it. And this side though was on the edge of the paper. It wasn't being cut from anything. So I'm just using the ruler to go in and rough up those edges. So this next one here, and I am going to use the 1/2 inch side and round this corner off. And then remember we put this tag here in place and it needs a little bit of cleaning up on this side. I can see where I have some of the other page on here. Then the notch tag, you're not going to see You're not going to be able to see any sanding on this. So this is going to be a good one that's going to just need that edge pulled up with the ruler or whatever distressing tool you want to use. Okay, for this tag, I thought it'd be interesting just to go in here and add a bit of a half circle opening. Just going to provide more peekaboo to underneath. I've decided for this one, I want to trim it down a bit more. I'm going to go back here and pull out this love tag, and I'm going to use that as my template to trim out the corner. So then it just looks like we have this nice wide format kind of tag. Take shapes that you see already on pre-cut tags or cutaways or whatever and use them in other places. So that's just a little cheater's way of making that little tag happen right there. So I'm happy with how that looks. That looks a lot better. Okay, the next piece, of course, is our minked distressed mixed media dots. I'm not going to trim that out yet, not until I start punching holes in this and figuring out exactly where I want all this placement to be. And then here's our tag again. Our last tag, it needs just a little bit of roughing up right here on this side because okay, the next part then, now that we have all of our pattern paper cut and even trimmed and altered as we've decided best fits, and I would hope and encourage you would always, make these books exactly how you want them. I'd love to see the creativity that you all add to this, and so often things I didn't even think of, and you just add them right to these books, and it's just always so awesome to look and see. And then so after we got all our pages trimmed to the right dimensions, then we went back and sanded or roughed up or retrimmed or whatever we needed to do just to make sure that these foundation pages are now ready to be embellished. Okay, as I embellish this tag mini album, I'm going to speed it up and let you watch along. But I also want to show you, there's another pattern paper. This paper here, it looks to me like they're pink doves on a black background. At the top, and this is where the perforation is for the paper, you have these other tags. Unfortunately, this isn't awesome because it's right, that hole's right through the beautiful, but you still have good vibes, love, and smile. So these are going to be great pieces I'm going to be using, and you're going to see me use in this book as well. All right, we're going to get our embellishment on. I'm going to add some splatters to this heart. That's going to be the very front cover, if you will, of this tag album. And then I'm just tearing off some more of the cutaway. And what I did here, this little tag has some phrases on it, and I ended up actually going back and tearing those phrases into 3 parts. So you're going to see this look a little different at the end. Trimming off the top of the foiled acetate and wrapping washi tape around the edge. These are just embellishments. There's not necessarily any rhyme or reason why I add these certain embellishments. It's just what I see and is attractive to me. Almost every page is going to have one of those pre-cut hearts. I love the theme of the hearts going through the whole entire book. I cut that going places tag in like a third, and so it's going to be part of the matting to this little tag. And you see I put the scallop part of a previous tag at the top. I like the way that looked, and the hole is going to actually be punched through that little part there. A little circle around the camera tag. And each of the larger main tags has a photo. Then I have this little V-notched piece almost on every page as well. I fussy cut the camera out of the camera paper, another heart. And then I think this little tag is super sweet here. I'm glad it's part of this, and just added some more tags to it as well. And you're just going to see me repeating the process here over and over, and that's okay. That's okay. We don't have to reinvent the wheel every time we make a new page. These papers stand out for themselves. They're gorgeous all along themselves. Adding extra cutaways to matte photos is a beautiful way to utilize the different prints. I made flags from that floral washi, and that's what I'm tucking in at the top of my photo there, in case you're wondering. And then that one tag that I just got into place, I'm going to use that for a big journaling piece. This is our final tag, and I fussy cut the floral from another piece of paper and it's sort of opened up like a corner holder, like a photo holder. And so photos tucked in there. The love tag is sort of tucked behind it. I doubled up 2 hearts and stapled them together and then added those in place. And so now we are at the complete end of this tag mini album. You can see how all the pieces play nicely together. I have a rather large ring on there, but I will be changing that to a little bit smaller ring. And then I'm also going to be adding some colored trim. It's like a silk trim that I have here, and you'll see those in the final photos as well. So that is how you put together a tag mini album. Thank you so much for watching.